What's the most valuable thing that working in customer service has taught you?
Definitely listening. This really helps you like on your day to day with your family, with your friends, at work. So I'll go for this one.
Sorry, I wasn't really listening to your answer. What was it? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I was just messing with you.
Man, that's a good one. I was like, fuck.
Welcome to The Ticket, the podcast where customer support leaders share insights on shaping the future of customer experience. I'm your host, Bobby Stapleton, Senior Director of Human Support at Intercom. Today, we're talking about a crucial challenge in support, understanding customer issues faster to improve resolution times and ultimately deliver a better experience. Joining me is Maxime Manseau, VP of Support at Birdie. Max is a support leader with deep expertise in support operations and leadership, helping over 2,500 teams streamline issue resolution through screen recordings and smarter workflows. We'll explore how better issue diagnosis improves customer experience, why many support teams are stuck in a ticket closing loop, and how AI and automation can enhance, not replace, the human touch in customer support. Welcome to the show, Maxime.
Hey, Bobby. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
I know I said this when we were chatting before, but I'm such a big fan of your content and of Birdie's content on LinkedIn and all the work that you guys do with customer support. So yeah, really, really excited to have you here today.
I appreciate it.
So let's jump in. So you've said that in support, teams often spend more time trying to understand a problem than actually solving it. I'd love to hear, like in your view, how does this impact the customer experience and what should teams be doing differently?
So for the story, we started Birdie, right? And we've been like getting a lot of support teams using the product. And with time, we started to look at the numbers, because when you start a company, usually it starts with a feeling, but it's not always based on numbers, right? And when we started to really look at the number of our customers, we basically realized that. So I'm gonna divide tickets between what I call low effort tickets and high effort tickets, right? So low effort tickets is something that AI is perfect to use on and resolve, and high effort tickets, it's tickets where, as of today at least, you need to have human involved, right? You need to have human involved either because it can't be solved by AI, but also because maybe it's like VIP customers, because, could be like a lot of different reasons. We can talk about it after. But anyway, when you look at high effort tickets, like we realize that people were spending usually like 70 to 75% of the time diagnosing the issue rather than solving it, right? And if you basically split tickets that support have understood versus like tickets that support haven't understood, you really see this delta of like, hey, so you get like all this energy and time involved with like ticket diagnosis that shouldn't be, or at least should be reduced.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And it's really good insight because I feel like it's like not all tickets are created equal, like you said. And it's like being able to understand it's more than just the question that's being asked, but really kind of diving into that like problem to be solved, getting on the same page. And like if that takes a long time, then you're immediately kind of lost.
There is even something, like I said before, like I was mentioning like high ticket effort or low ticket efforts, like it even start before. So um, not all people is gonna like this, but like customers are pretty bad, to not say they sucks at describing issues, right? So they're gonna reach out and they're gonna tell you, hey, Bobby, the blue button doesn't work, right? But the blue button, you probably have like thousands of blue button, and it doesn't work can mean so many things, right? Could mean like there is a real bug, could be like there is an error display, could be that the customer were expecting a certain behavior but is doing something else. So even if you takes like low effort tickets, just understanding from the customer support team side what really your customer want or is reaching about is crucial to everything else, even for routing purposes, right? You're not going to be able to route like the ticket to the right person if you haven't understand what the customer is talking about. So that's pretty fascinating because like I mean, if you take like two individuals, so the support reps who have like all the product knowledge and for sure is empathic and everything and blah, blah, blah. But like the customer, even like a tech savvy customer, but the way you're going to approach the product and assume that basically you know what you're talking about, like usually you have such a distortion here. So
That's true. And I feel like that's one of the big value adds of Birdie, right? Like Birdie's big wins is being able to reduce that back and forth between customers and between agents. And I would love to hear like why is that? Why is reducing customer effort such a critical part of delivering great support? And like how does Birdie help make that possible?
yeah. So I'm not here to promote Birdie, but anyway, I'm gonna explain you just very quickly so people here can understand. So Birdie basically is what I call a reverse screen recording solution for support. So I'm calling it reverse because basically if you're taking Loom, for example, this is made for basically you to record and send to customers, right? What Birdie is doing actually and how it has been built is it's really here to basically enable your customer to record so they can show you what's going on, what's going wrong, and you in your support team can see for yourself, understand, and resolve. Or if you don't understand, I mean, if you understand but can't resolve it, at least you have basically everything ready to scale it. So yeah, this is basically what is it about, like giving the ability of your customer to easily record without having them to download or install anything, right? So very simple.
And like, how did you kind of land on that as a solution? Like when you were thinking about all the different ways to reduce customer effort, like what was it about that part of a ticket?
This is not at all what happened. Like, so the true story about Birdie is my co-founder and I, we were basically building something totally different. We were, I don't know, building for 6 months, 9 months, enrolling some people. And we were struggling very often to really understand what the customer was talking about when they were reaching out in support, right? So when it started, we just like in 1 or 2 days, we just coded like a little widget. Basically, you could think of like Intercom widget where basically customer were just clicking on it and these were starting a screen recording, right? And the funny thing is after 2 or 3 weeks, like people were not talking at all about the product we were building, but just this little feature we added the product we were working on. So we just decided to basically like spin it off. So it's it's something we built for us basically in support, and it became very
It's a sign of a great product when you're like, it's like, I can't imagine us living without it. And then also when customers are like, no, we can't imagine living without it. So that's really cool. AI is playing a bigger role in support, but we know that customers still really value having those human interactions. I'd love to hear from you. Like, how do you see automation and AI fitting into a great customer experience without losing that personal touch?
so first because I feel we always mixed up the two. I like to differentiate like what I call like internal AI, which is going to be like AI tools to really empower the support team, but that doesn't have anything like customer facing, and customer facing AI, which is really like the experience an user or customer might have with AI. So like AI bots or anything like this, right? So if you take like internal AI, I'm a pro internal AI in a sense that like in no ways is coming to disturb, I would say, like the support customer relationship, right? But if you take like the AI customer face, and I'm obviously pro AI customer face too, but I feel like it just need to be used. I mean, you need to have a plan to use it, right? In a sense, like you really need to make sure about like you have segmented like your customer correctly, make sure to identify what type of issue need to go through this channel to the one who needs to go to the human channel. So it's really about like, I mean, it's not black or white at all. I feel there is a big work like in terms of like support operation to have something super efficient. So yeah, I will start with this differentiation.
Mhm. And are there any like of the internal AI tools, are there any that you see that you're like, okay, these are really critical for support agents, again, to help them either be faster or to help identify those core problems?
I I'm not gonna throw names here, but for example, if you're talking about routing, I was talking with like small teams, like very small teams, like they were like 15 reps, and they reached out to me on LinkedIn telling me, "Hey Max, how should we do that?" Because as of today, they have one person. That's one person who humanly basically routes tickets, right? And they were telling me like, so the thing is like we're having issue when like she's sick and she gets like, like obviously, like in 2025, you need to route automatically and you have a bunch of stuff, but like, like it's obviously like you get Intercom with everything integrated. Basically, it's kind of solved. But in this case, they were not using Intercom, right? So they were like, yeah, I mean, like this is something like super that should be like simple and works great, but it's not always. So routing is just one example of like among many others, but maybe like the first and most important one, like good routing, gonna help you like operate much more efficiently.
It's a good example. And obviously my team, we're all using Intercom, and it's easy to take for granted the like small things where you're like, oh my gosh, like an entire human's day is just like manually moving tickets and routing them to the right spot. And such a great example for AI. Like I'm sure that human would rather be like talking with the customers directly or helping the team be more efficient. And so some of those like, I don't know, for lack of a better adjective, mindless tasks.
It's always challenging to have something that works because the things like I feel like people look at what doesn't work more than what it works when you have this switch from like human first to AI first. So let's say even if the UI is doing 98% of its job good and probably even better than the human, if we take back routing, I'm sure like the human were routing like tickets to persons that they were not supposed to, right? But I feel when QA enter and look at what the AI did good or did bad, they look at always what it did it bad, and maybe those 2%, they were like, oh fuck, this human person would have done it better. So I feel this is also like, I mean, there is a lot of paradigm shifts here, and I mean, there is a journey for this, and no every team is ready. I feel like we are in the tech, so for us it's like a no-brainer. But a lot of teams who are not like providing support to a technological product first, this kind of thing, I'm not there yet. So yeah.
Like, makes sense. So I wanted to throw this one at you. So one of the KPIs for my team, our inboxing teammates, is that they have an individual KPI for like how many conversations they're assigning to themselves, but then they also have a KPI for the number of conversations that they're closing. And we kind of amongst that, we're just kind of assuming that between those two bookends, like we're solving the customer's issue. But you've talked a lot about how some teams focus too much on fast response times or focus too much on ticket closures without actually fixing the root cause of the issue. So, what should support teams be measuring in order to truly improve and understand the customer experience versus just kind of hoping that that's happening somewhere along the way?
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, yes, I know there are pretty different things here, but like something top of mind, for example, we have teams who are looking at the number of back and forth, for example, right here. So if you take like the number of tickets who have been assigned to a customer and the number of tickets closed, so that's fine. You got this delta, right? But how efficient have you been in this delta, right? So I know a lot of teams are, for example, setting up like KPIs to really like look at like the number of like back and forth during this moment, trying to reduce like this back and forth, right? So on average, I mean, it depends, but if you look like across a lot of industries and support team size, you get like a 4 back and forth before getting like a ticket resolved. And the challenge is basically how do you go from 4 to 1? Obviously, like you can have like tickets with like 16 for very, but like I'm saying, like if you really take like a lot of data, you go like to like 4 back and forth, 4 to 5. And I feel like thinking of, hey, what should we set up to reduce this back and forth from 4, 5 to 1? And obviously, Birdie is not the only answer, right? You have a bunch of things like thinking about like, like a internal AI and these kind of things that can help with that. So this is just, thinking about like metrics that really improve the customer effort score and also the agent score. Because a lot of time we're looking to improve, like the life of the customer. But I feel when you're starting to be a bit stuck about like, hey, I don't know what to do to improve like the life of my customer. If you look at the agent side, it's much easier. You go see your team and they're gonna tell you, hey, if I had this or if we were not doing that would be like much better for me. And if you measure like the way you improve like agent effort score, like it has like a direct impact on like customer effort score. So yeah.
No, that's great advice. And especially if support leaders are uncertain or unsure on like where to start to reduce customer effort, like that advice of, hey, go talk to your team, and that reducing agent effort will end up translating to reducing customer effort is then, then becomes really, really actionable and accessible. So that's a great guidance.
Yeah, I have a little anecdote on this. Like, so I've been talking to a lot of VP support that they got bring into the business because like the business was skyrocketing and like the CEO was looking for like a new VP of support, right? So you get like those guys, who arrive to like a new product, new company, and they need to bring the support team to 2.0 level. And all of them, I said a lot, but I have 8 or 9 in mind right now. And each of them, the first thing they were doing was not like looking at the metrics. They're not like looking at customer CSAT comments. They were just like sitting with their teams, looking at what being like a support reps in this company meant, and having a one-on-one of 1 hour really about like, hey, what do you like? What don't you like? Blah, blah, blah. And they were really starting with those insight, like internal insight, were nothing to relate with the customer to land like a really great like support organization. And I feel this is super like contradictful in the sense that you will tend to think that you need to look at the customer and look at all this, and obviously you need to, but looking really at what your team and your teammates experience, like really like, and how to change, improve, enhance is really like a good way to when you want to go to the next level. Yeah.
Love that. Let's talk escalations. So, a common frustration in support is escalations that lack context and cause delays and frictions for both customers and the support teammates. What are the key steps to making escalations smoother and more effective?
Yeah. So first, I feel like for the people who are listening to us, if you're in support, you know how that works, right? So let's say I'm like a frontline support, right? So a customer is reaching out, he has an issue. I can't really solve it. And usually I'm going to escalate this issue, right, to a level 2, level 3, or engineers, depending on how your support is structured, right? But very often, developer is going to come back to you and tell you, hey, Max, can you ask the customer this, and that? And Max, by the way, do you know if this? Hey, Max. And so you get like those, I was talking about like, back and forth with the customer, but in this case, the endless back and forth are internal ones, right? Between support team, I mean, between level 1, level 2, or level 1 developers anyway, but you get a lot of those back and forth, right? You need to make sure to avoid this. So most of the time, it's because like the person you escalated the issue as a ticket don't have a clear understanding of what's happening and a clear bug report, basically. So obviously, here again, don't want to promote Birdie, but I need to talk about it. Getting a video, right, of what has happened is clearly like a no-brainer, especially if you can't replicate the issue on your environment, because at least you know what's happening. The second thing is getting like, I would say like all the console logs and network requests that is happening. So this is something that Birdie is helping you to, right? When you get the screen recording, you also get like all the console logs and the network request. The main idea is just like your customer records the issue and you get everything ready for bug report, right? So this is really like getting a clear bug report and adding a clear issue diagnosis process. Make it just you escalate a ticket. Basically, you know no one gonna ping you until it's closed. And then you have I will have a lot to say about support operations regarding, like handling escalation, and especially like letting this is just a personal thing, but just like there is so many support team where, for example, the issue has been solved as finally on the developer end, and just like support people are not aware, right? So I mean, I have so many examples of stuff like this, but this is what I call like support operation. Like, but I feel if you really have a clear understanding of what the issue is about, if you have the reproduction steps, Birdie gives you the reproduction step too. I mean, you have everything that you can hope for to have it resolved.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing from you there is like in these moments of escalations, it's like you want to put as little burden on your customers as possible. And then especially for us as that CS middle person focal point, it's about like how can you get all the different pieces of the puzzle so that if you are working with product, or if you are working with sales, or if you do need to go talk to an exec or whoever, it's like you have what you need to go and be able to advocate for them, get the solve, and not just have this like game of telephone lasting forever, because yeah, that's just going to piss the customer off even more.
Is that funny because you're saying the piece of the puzzle? This is often like an analogy like our customers are using, right? So this is basically like a bug is like a puzzle, right? If you're asked to solve it without all the pieces, man, obviously you're gonna take like much more time, right? And developers are gonna get back to you, hey, have you seen the upper left corner? Have you seen the bottom right corner? So if you get like all the pieces, even if like the puzzle is not like fully set up, like you're sure to not disturb like the end user anymore, right? And you don't need to underestimate how, I'm gonna use, painful it is for the customer in terms of energy and time. So if you're using like, for example, like a chat channel, the back and forth can be a bit quicker. But let's say your main support channel is email, right? Then sometimes it just takes like 2 or 3 days, right? Because like you realize you need something, you email the customer, it's nighttime at the customer, he has other stuff to do. And when you face into an issue, except if it's crucial issue and you can't do your job, you reach out to support and you hope it's done. And then like every time they reach out, like pinging you, hey, I need this, it's just like, oh, at least this is how I feel. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's good advice. So you've written about how customer experience is a reflection of teammate experience. How does teammate burnout impact customer experience, and like what can support leaders do to empower their teams and help prevent burnout?
So basically, first, what people need to understand here is like agent attrition is, I would say, the biggest threat when you're building a support team, right? Just because like, people leave and come back. And this is true on all type of team, product, engineers, but it always happens more in support than in any other team, especially if you have really built your support team carefully. But usually I would say like two rules of thumb. First, when you hire people, don't hide them anything about their daily job. What I'm trying to say here is like a lot of people are just like painting something different at what the real job is about. If you're going to need to spend 90% of your time in the queue, don't lie to the person saying he's going to be 20% in the queue and just working in an amazing type of project and blah, blah, blah. Because the gap, between the expectation and the reality, this is what kills people like a lot. And I feel like a lot of like support leaders are trying to paint job sexier because they are scared to not find the right person. And the thing with support is just in this world, you have perfect people for your job. So make sure, to paint the real type of job and hire the person that is done for the job rather than like, like looking sexy and everyone say, oh, I want to join, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's easier to hire, but just after you're going to pay it in 3 months, 6 months. You're going to pay it because like the person leave, but also because like it just throw like a bad mood to the entire team. So this is, I would say, the first very easy tip. The second tip is like to have a clear career trajectory track. And I feel this is missing a lot in support teams. You know, you need to look serious, right? So you're looking for talents, and we can talk about it after, but I might be a bit harsh on it, but I feel like back in the days, you could build your team with your support team with not only talentful people, and it was okay. But with AI coming, this shows that you need talentful people in support. But we can keep this for after. What I'm trying to say here is like, you need as support leader to just have a clear career projection track, because a player will not come and join you just want to know if they succeed in their job. They want to know what you have in store for them for in 2 years, 4 years, and even like a cross department track. And so if you have this very setup, and I understand this might not be easy when you have a small team, but I feel when you're like 20 plus like support team, it means like you probably have a 200 plus employees company, like you can and should start thinking about this.
Yeah. No, that's really good advice. And like, even for our own CS team, one of the things that we've been trying to do over the past year, and we did a bunch of work on it. And then, to be honest, I feel like we now need to go and do even more work. But we did this big project of trying to like do two things. Like, one, making sure that there was like good, robust career pathing within the CS organization, knowing that because AI is making the caseload for human support harder and more complex, it's like you're probably needing to hire and attract like more tenured and experienced people. So it's like they're going to want to have that ladder and somewhere to go in CS if that's like they're a true blue CS person. Or you also want to have those like different CS, depending on the size of your team, you want to have those different CS roles maybe outside of the inbox as part of support operations, whether that's like conversation designer, chatbot analyst, whatever you want to call it. And then lastly, of course, like the career pathing, maybe outside of CS, like it's a good problem that we have. Like over half of our attrition last year was people moving to other teams in Intercom, like sales and success and product, and which is great because we have all these like CS. One of our managers calls them CS spies. We have all these CS spies around the rest of the company, and I'm like, I know they're gonna make sure that like that docket gets written or that like someone tells support that this change happened. So it's a good thing, and like you said, it's good for morale. But it's still like that, yeah, like that kind of piece of the puzzle to make sure you have, yeah, that like you have enough people for your own team, and then you're painting those paths to other teams too.
Definitely. And I like to emphasize something here, because like changing, switching teams is not the finality, because like I feel back in the days, a lot of people were looking at the support team as, like a way to basically enter in the company and then, fight. And because like support is becoming more and more that's funny. Thanks to AI, support is becoming more and more technical. We need more and more talentful people. You have less and less boring work, I feel, to do, and more interesting and challenging work. But yeah, I feel the age where like people were like, hey, I'm doing, they were almost saying, hey, I'm doing support because I want to join the product team, right? Now, like you can have a real career in support. You can earn a lot of money in support, and you can just, be very happy doing support. And I feel this is something that's really like shifting in people's mind, because we were not always here, So yeah, I'm happy that like you can now build a real career in support.
So I wanted to ask, so Birdie works with thousands of teams, and what are some of the most common mistakes that you see support teams making, and what practical advice would you give leaders looking to improve on their experience today?
Maybe for small teams, very often they want to do every channel. So, they want to do, for example, chat and email. And, it sounds so dumb, but keep to one, right? And this really usually depends of the type of product you're supporting, the type of customer you're helping, but don't feel like you need to do chat and email. So this is, it's so dumb, but I feel like so many people like trying to do everything at once, and they're just doing it like poorly. So it's like everything in life, just do one thing and do it good, right? So this would be for, I would say, like early stage team. For late stage team, let's see, many things, but something maybe like, I don't know if it's something differently, but maybe a little tips. Like I've seen a VP support doing this and it worked pretty well. And this is more like for VP support, like director of support, anyway, like support leadership. But like what I've seen across a lot of teams is like support still too much siloed. Reframe this. So support doesn't spread within the company enough. So usually like VP support are doing an excellent job at, running the support team and support operation, blah, blah, blah. But it's also their job to spread and show to the to all the company what they are doing, because you can't forget that basically support team is the only team who talks to customer every single day. So and it's such siloed all the time, too much, too often. So for example, like if tomorrow each director of support will put themselves like like an objective like of like, hey, I need to, I don't know, this can have a lot of form. It could be like each month I need to send to all, the director of the companies a quick memo of what we've done, the big problem with the customers. I don't know. There is a bunch of different ways to frame this, but just like try to, it's your job to put support on top of the head of all the other teams. I'm sorry I didn't frame it really correctly, but you get the idea. But yeah, I feel like this is something which is poorly done. I don't know if you do something like this, Bobby, or not, but yeah.
No, I love that. Like that idea of like, it is your job as the leader of support to put support top of mind for all the other leaders of the company. Like that's just gold advice. And you're so right. Like I think I feel this too. Like it's easy to get caught up in the busyness of the queue or to get caught up in just like the firefighting nature that is support, that like you can forget that bigger impact that you are responsible for, of like, whether that's like you said, like communicating customer experience, communicating product pain points, or even just keeping the rest of your team informed, a company informed about like what support is doing. I think there's probably a lot of curiosity from the rest of the company on that, especially these days, because everybody knows like things are changing so much. So just finding ways to get that information out there. And I know I've been guilty myself of being like, well, how come support wasn't included? And it's like, well, man, that's your job to get support at the table. So it's well said.
I'm gonna tell you something. I thought a lot about this, and I haven't found one good reason to not do it. And then for the people who are listening us, I'm gonna tell you a little secret here. Everyone is a bit selfish in the end, right? And trust me, like just if you take the lead on having like the support, like sit at the table, you're gonna receive good karma, Next time you ask for a raise, for example, trust me, like the C-level gonna think about you. But like it's 200%. Like I don't guarantee here on this podcast, right? But like really, like you just like if you look, if you become a bit, if you look being a bit selfish, like yes, like it's gonna be good for you, like because like all the other C-level in the company gonna look at it as a good initiative, and it's something that's helping everyone, and especially helping the business grow. If you frame it the correct way, it really helps the CEO directly. So it can only be good, yeah.
Looking ahead, what excites you the most about the future of customer support? Are there trends or innovations that you think are going to redefine how companies deliver a world-class customer experience?
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited by what I don't know yet. And basically what I don't know yet is I can imagine that in a few years you could automate all the support, right? So I think somehow we're gonna land here even high effort tickets, and hopefully thanks to tools like Intercom and Birdie.
Yeah.
But I can't help myself imagine a world with no human support, because I feel the funny story is that human support going to become the differentiator, right? So I posted last week about like Klarna, right? So Klarna, they fire like close to 700 people in support and automate everything, right? And basically, I'm doing a shortcut here, but long story short, their CEO just wrote on X, like saying that, hey, we came to realize that we need to hire more and more human support, right? And just to be clear, he doesn't say that he did a mistake using AI and you need to revert back to human support. He's saying that he's gonna optimize AI, but this make him realize like how important for the business it is to offer like human support first too. And this obviously I can imagine it depends of like, the size, the type of customer he has. Maybe it's only for the big customer, for but just like, so I'm curious, like to see in 2 or 3 years, you're probably going to say like, hey, I have this product and we offer human support, and people are going to be, wow, they offer human support. So I think, when you have these tenets of something very new, it spread and then you come back to, so I'm excited to see how this is going to play in like a few years.
No, it's so true. And obviously I'm biased, like leading the human support team, but use whatever analogy, like the idea of going to a bank, like, yes, I want to be able to like get cash or cash checks, do all that digitally on my own. But like when I was moving over here to Dublin, I was like, I want to go talk to somebody about like moving my money. This is a huge deal, right? Like I don't want to do this through an app. Or we were talking recently about like the Oscars and the idea that like in a world where you can use CGI to make any sort of movie, like there is something artisanal and special about seeing like actual special effects, and so I don't know, there's a lot of these like parallels and analogies that I think like human support will continue to play a crucial part. And yeah, figuring out where that fits and how it all kind of blends together will be quite the question for the next few years.
And because like technology is becoming more and more commoditized, like we can think like in 3 or 4 years, like basically you have like 20, not 20, like hundreds of products we're doing exactly the same, right? And my vision is like you're gonna have 2 things that differentiate. So the branding, just like you need to come up top of mind, right? And this you have a lot of strategy and stuff. And then like human supports, right? Let's say you're trying to, buy a TV and all the TV are exactly the same. They have the same specs, right? You can buy them like automatically every stores. Like, yeah, at the end, like you're going to want to talk maybe to one guy, a human who talk to you, advise you. And just by feeling a human connection somewhere in the product, it makes a world difference and you'll go for this one and not the other one. So we'll see how this play out, right? But like, yeah, I think like in a world where technology is getting more and more commoditized, human gonna come back play a great role.
Well, Maxime, thanks so much for joining me today, man. It was awesome getting to chat with you, and thank you.
Thanks, Bobby. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure. If you guys have any question after listening to this, you can find me on LinkedIn, sorry. DM me, I'll be happy to help you if I can.
Just before we go, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at inter.com/newsletter to stay updated with the latest trends in customer service and support. And make sure to check out our sister podcast, Intercom on Product, for insights into product design and development. You can find it on your preferred podcast platform or by visiting intercom.com/product podcast. You'll find all the links in the episode description. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time on The Ticket.